And welcome to our October edition of Sports Highlights as we continue on the road since April of 2020. We're at beautiful Kingsmill in Williamsburg, Virginia. Greg BICOUVARIS, glad you're with us. Our program Sports Highlights airs on Mondays at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m., weekends at 9 a.m. Since February of 1992, we've also won Communicator Awards and been honored by the Newport News City Council. It's a privilege to talk to Dan McCain, the Director of Racquet Sports here at Kingsmill. Dan, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
How did you get involved in tennis? I know you played at Michigan in the Big Ten.
That's right. Both my parents are tennis coaches and have been for many years. My sister plays, so it was a natural thing for me to get interested in. I started when I was 9 years old.
I think that helped starting at a young age and developing those good habits.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I could spend a lot of time with my family, and it's a great way for a 9-year-old kid to go out to the tennis court and spend time with his father.
Sometimes guys and gals are both serving volleyers or forehand, backhand, ground strokes. What did you specialize in?
I was a little bit of a chameleon, so big part of my game was with strategy, and I was able to sort of change styles based on who I was playing, so I tried to do the best I could with that, and that's what made me a little different than other people.
You look at tennis, some of the stuff, especially the older matches that McEnroe played in and Connors back in the 70s and the 80s, and it was these long ground strokes, and you kind of look at it and compared to now, the way Nadal and Djokovic play and some of those guys, Federer, it seems like it's just like 4 or 5 tennis versus world-class tennis, the way the power of the ball.
Yeah, well, the racket and string technology is a major reason why the game's changed. People can hit the ball a lot harder and with a lot more spin, and but that's just part of the evolution of the game, and to me it makes things more interesting.
This is a beautiful facility out here, folks. You might remember at one time Brent Hughes was out here, Murray Ajabadi, and Dan is leading that legacy here. Yours truly has played here at tournaments as well. This is a world-class resort, and it's still got a lot of potential here.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful facility. I'm lucky to be here. I just in September was my 1-year anniversary, so I'm still kind of the new guy, and trying to put together some good programs for the members and the guests.
Talk about some of the people who've never played on clay courts. Talk about the surface. It's obviously slower than hard courts.
Yeah, the movement's a lot different. It's fun to slide when you can, and it's a lot easier on the body and easier on the joints. But it's a different game than hard court tennis, and you know, it makes it fun. Yeah,
you talk about membership out here as well. There's clinics going on. There's tournaments. There's something for kids, something for adults. There's really something for everyone.
Yeah, one of my goals when I was hired was to, like you said, make it possible to offer a range of programs that anybody could join and enjoy.
Right. You talk about yourself a little bit. You played at Michigan. You grew up in the Midwest in Illinois. Talk about your career as a Wolverine. And you beat some pretty famous players like James Blake, and you played the Bryant brothers, who are probably the best doubles team of all time.
Yeah, I played the Bryant brothers, thankfully, in singles. I played both of them at nationals in front of like 500 people, and they destroyed me in front of a very large crowd, so that was fun and humiliating, but good experience. And I had some good moments along the way as a junior and in college, and it was really rewarding.
Talk about the match against Blake and some of your memorable matches in college and at the money level.
Well, when I played Blake, I didn't know he was going to be a U.S. Open semifinalist years later, but I knew he was good. And you know, sometimes you win some and you lose some, and sometimes some of these guys end up hitting it big.
But think about it, guys and gals. This guy beat James Blake. I mean, this is not an average player here who's just running here at Kingsmill. To beat a world-class player is unbelievable right here. As far as seasons are different here, spring, summer, we're in fall now. Talk about what's ahead as far as the winter. And you do have a couple hard courts here as well.
Yeah, we've got 2 hard courts that also double as 4 pickleball courts. So the pickleball program's really picking up. It's gaining in popularity like it is nationwide, and that's only a positive thing. And through the fall and winter, we have some good tournaments coming up. We've got some UTR and ITA college tournaments happening, and some really cool member-based tournaments as well.
You mentioned the tournaments. How can people see a schedule of upcoming events?
So you can go to the UTR website and search for Kingsmill Resort and MCCAIN Tennis. And you can also go to the USTA website and search for 23185, our zip code, and you'll see some Kingsmill Resort tournaments as well.
Talking to Dan McCain, he's the director of Racquet Sports. So when you think of racket sports, he mentioned pickleball. There's also racquetball, and there's always that knowledge that tennis players can pick up racquetball really quick. That's not always the case.
Racquetball is a different animal. Playing indoors and playing off the walls is it's a great workout. There's a lot more strategy than some people that don't play as much realize, and it's a great workout. It's a great way to have fun with your friends.
When you talk about pickleball, talk about what goes into pickleball. Do a layout. What exactly is pickleball?
So pickleball is with paddles rather than rackets in tennis, and there's some different rules and different scoring formats, and one of the great things about pickleball is easy to pick up, easy to learn how to play right away. And if tennis is taught right, tennis is the same, but because there's a little bit less movement and a smaller court, a lot of people can pick up pickleball pretty quickly.
Tennis is a great sport for social distancing. You're way more than 6 feet apart. It's outdoors or indoors, but it's really a great sport. We're at the beautiful Kingsmill facility, where it's a world-class facility as far as dining, hospitality, and they've had great golf tournaments here over the years too. As people get older, they tend to go to doubles and mixed doubles, and that's something that they can play till they're 100 years old.
That's right. That's right. And that's one of the advantages of us having 13 state-of-the-art clay courts is, like I said before, that clay courts are a lot easier on the body, so that just helps extend the life of the sport for everybody.
You talk about clay courts, and you can see the ball lines pretty well. Hard courts, you can't always do it. It's not like when in doubt, call it out. Clay is pretty obvious.
Yeah, well, you're going to get ball marks on the clay courts, and there's always evidence whether it's in or out, and hard courts sometimes leaves a little bit to the imagination based on how competitive people can get.
And you talked about earlier in the segment about the tennis racket, how it's changed from the old wood racket or the T3000 or the T2000 way back in the day.
Yeah.
I've always liked Dunlop rackets, Black Maxes. I used to love them back in the day too because they were great tennis rackets. But how about tennis balls, Dan? Have they really changed much since you've been in college?
Not a whole lot. The tennis ball has been pretty consistent. I think that's a good thing. There's a little more variation with the balls based on which surface you're playing. A lot of companies now are making balls specific to the surface, clay court specific balls, hard court specific balls, even grass court specific balls.
Yeah, and of course different tournaments have different surfaces. Most commonly here in Virginia, it's hard courts and clay courts, but clay courts are sometimes easier on the knees, correct?
That's right, that's right. Playing on hard courts, you're running around on concrete all day, whereas playing on clay, the surface itself is much softer.
Yeah, and tennis is like a really good cardio aerobic exercise. You should still stretch before you play and stay hydrated, correct?
Absolutely. Not only is it a great social distancing sport, like you said, and there's science that backs that up, actually, which is very helpful for people that love the sport. But it's a great way to stay healthy, stay active.
Yeah. And you really don't need a whole lot of equipment, folks. Like we said, you need a tennis racket, some balls. If you don't have a partner to play with, go hit against the backboard. I mean, there's backboards everywhere. And of course, you need good tennis shoes too. That's something that people sometimes take for granted. Footwork on clay, footwork on hard courts, but having the proper shoes too.
Having the proper shoes is a big deal, and a lot of facilities, like you said, have a backboard that if you don't have a partner to play with, you can go hit with. We have ball machines that serve as a great workout, but also, if you want to go play and you don't have a partner on that particular day, we've got ball machines as well.
Let's talk about some of the different strokes too. For a lot of people like to hit the ball flat, others like to slice, others like to do top spin. you know, sometimes usually your forehand is stronger, but for some people their backhand is stronger.
Yeah, well, different strokes for different folks, and everybody develops their own strengths and weaknesses over time, and you know, you sort of develop your own personality with your own game style the more you play, and that's part of what makes people unique out here.
Like we said, you played world-class players before, and I'm going to get your opinion too, because you played Division I tennis too. You've seen a lot of American women doing very well in the Grand Slams, but not American men as much. It's like the same old, Djokovic, Nadal, Federer for almost the entire century of the 21st century. What's up with American tennis?
Well, you know, in one way to look at it, I mean, we're kind of lucky to have three of the all-time greats in our generation, watching Djokovic, watching Nadal, and obviously Federer. They've been a lot of fun to watch for a long time, and it's good for American tennis to see a lot of the ladies rising to the top of the sport. That's only going to increase popularity and inspire more kids to play. The good news on the men's side is the numbers are lifting. You know, we've got more pros that really have the potential to rise to the top. You know, more pros from the U.S. starting to get, you know, top 100, 200, 300 in the world.
Yeah, that's very good. And you talk about kids and beginners and so forth. Tennis is not something you can put the racket down and 6 months later pick it back up. Sure, if you've been playing since you've been 8 or 9 like we have, you have the skill set, but still you get rusty if you don't play.
Yeah, you got to practice. You got to practice if you want to play well, but it's going to be a great workout and a great way to socialize with your friends regardless.
Yep, talking to Dan McCain. We're talking about the great sport of tennis right here. He's the director of Racquet Sports here, which includes tennis and pickleball. They've got excellent clay courts, a couple hard courts, beautiful scenery as well. When you talk about, as far as some of your matches at Michigan specifically, was it the Ohio State match, the Northwestern, Illinois, Indiana? Talk about some of the matches that stood out.
Well, we had some great rivalries, no doubt. And obviously the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is big in football. It was big in tennis too. And we had some great matches against them. And back in my day, which was much longer ago than I prefer to admit, we had some great matches against Illinois and Michigan State as well. It was a lot of fun playing in the Big Ten and going to the NCAAs. It was a great experience and paid my way through college.
You might remember, folks, a long time ago when Connors played Aaron Krickstein. Krickstein had Midwest roots in Michigan, so the Midwest has had a lot of good tennis players over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about who you looked up to as a mentor in tennis.
I looked up to my father. My dad is a decorated coach, much more so than I've ever been, and both my parents were college coaches when I was growing up at different times. My dad's still a college coach to this day, and my hero has always been my mom and dad.
Where's your dad coached at?
My dad coaches a D3 program in North Carolina called Guilford College.
Very good. Very familiar with Guilford, yep. Very good. And you talk about tennis and talk about some of those matches. A lot of pros at the young level, especially the younger ladies, sometimes they don't even finish high school. They're going right to the pro tour. Do you recommend to go to college and play 4 years of college tennis? Or if you're good enough at, let's say, 17 or 18, you know, or even like Jennifer Capriati, for example, she played at a very young age. There's so many different ways to get there, I guess.
There's a lot of ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
You know, college is a good avenue more than ever, and the reason for that is the average age of the top 100 players in the world now is like 27, 28 for the men, and it's only getting older for the ladies as well, because it takes a long time to develop all the skills you need to be the best in the world. And so, you know, college is a good avenue. It's a good time for you to grow up physically and mentally, and you know, give you the chance to go through the minor leagues and maybe make the majors.
Yeah, we had Serena on this show a while back, and her and her sister are kind of a testament of time too. I mean, that's rare.
Yeah.
I mean, Connors was like that, but very few players have done that.
Yeah. Yeah, even McEnroe played college. He played at Stanford for a year or two. I can't remember how long it was exactly, but you know, it's a good avenue for people to just grow up a little bit.
Yeah, even my all-time favorite player, Tomas Muster, was the king of clay back in the day, way before that Nadal was. So, I mean, you never know how you're going to get there. You know, sometimes the European players have more access than the American players, but soccer is big in Europe. In the United States, tennis is starting to grow. That's really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I was recruited by a man named Brian Eisner to Michigan, and he was a father figure for me, and he was a guy that helped me grow up and become more of a man.
All right, give us your final tip on beginners to go out there and hit the ball.
The best way to get better is just get out there and log time. There's a lot of ways to do it. Whether or not you just get out there and play with your friends and see what happens. You know, it's nice to take a few more lessons when you're just getting started so you build some confidence. That way, you know, you feel like you know what you're doing when you get out there with your friends and play.
Right, lessons, tournaments, all part of it. All right, I want to thank you, Dan McCain, for being on our October edition of Sports Highlights. All the best to you and your family.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Very good. Dan McCain right there, former Michigan Wolverine right here, who beat James Blake in world-class tennis right here at this nice resort in Kingsmill in Williamsburg, Virginia. Sports Highlights will continue after these messages.
Music and fine arts provide enriching experiences. They teach students that there can be more than one solution to a problem, more than one right answer, that mistakes are learning experiences, and present an opportunity to be creative and flexible. The arts encourage persistence and dedication. They require sustained concentration, personal reflection involving critical analysis, and self-adjustment to reach desired goals. These are essential 21st century skills. Skills recognized as important to productive career and citizen success. Each student deserves and benefits from an arts-rich education.
Fusion Fitness with Alexis. Tune in weekdays 6:30 a.m., Mondays 7:30 a.m., 2:30 p.m., and 7:30 p.m.
You're watching NNPS TV. Catch sports highlights on Mondays at 7, 2, and 7, and on Saturdays and Sundays at 9 a.m. Visit us online at nnpstv.com to view all your favorite episodes. NNPS TV, watching education happen.
I want to be a historian.
I want to be a marine scientist.
I want to be an oceanographer.
I want to be an astronaut.
I want to be a zoologist.
I want to be an engineer.
Virginia is rich in educational resources.
Virginia is for.
Virginia is for.
Virginia is for. Virginia is for.
Virginia is for learners.
And welcome back to our second segment here at beautiful Kingsmill, talking about the wonderful sport of tennis. Hope you enjoyed our first guest, Dan McCain. It's a pleasure now to talk to Danielle Moore, teaching professional here at Kingsmill. Good to see you, Danielle.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah, you went to Walsingham, but how did you get involved in tennis?
Oh gosh, I played when I was little across town, and actually the pro across town called my mom one day and asked if she had any idea that her daughter was good at tennis.
Right.
And my mom did not know, and shortly after that just started taking lessons all the time, and then actually switched over here to Kingsmill and grew up playing here as well.
Right, so you're very familiar with this place even before you were working here.
Right, yes. Yeah. I lived in this neighborhood and grew up playing here, so it feels just like home to me.
And starting at a young age is very important to get a great habits early on.
Oh, for sure. I mean, tennis is a sport that you can play for a lifetime, and if you get the basic mechanics down early on, it's kind of like riding a bike, and you can use it always, even into your adulthood, and it's pretty cool. It's one of the only sports, I guess, maybe besides golf, that you can play as an adult all through your life. So it's really awesome to get the little kiddos out there early.
No question. And of course, tennis is different because, there's the ground strokes way by the baseline, and I call it the deep dive here by the net. Some people like being at the net, others don't. It's really like me. I played my entire life. I prefer the baseline. I'll come to the net if it's an emergency.
Right. Yeah, I was very much the same. I was a huge baseliner, and I had a little trouble varying my pace. I just wanted to hit the ball hard, and was stubborn and didn't listen to all of my coaches along the years, but they tried to get me up at the net, and never really did until playing as an adult, starting to play some doubles. Now I do love the net.
And that's the biggest difference with singles and doubles. Singles, you kind of tend to be conservative, stay by the baseline, while doubles, you have to be at the net. You have no choice. You've got to be at the net.
Right. Although there's times where I've backed up on the baseline with my doubles partner a time or two.
Same here. Talk about as far as your day-to-day job here at Kingsmill.
Well, we just wrapped up summer camps. We had, I believe, 8 weeks, Monday through Friday. And then we ended up adding 2 more weeks towards the end of summer, which was awesome. And we had, anywhere from 10 to 20 some kids out each day. And then I helped Dan out with the tournaments and stuff around here. And then now we just started our fall clinics. So they just started on the 7th. So we've got those in the afternoons and after school. And then I also do private lessons as well, and do some stuff up in the pro shop.
Is it better to do private lessons or group lessons?
It depends on who the person is. I liked both growing up, but you get more bang for your buck in a private. I like to think that you learn the important stuff and work on specific things in your privates, and then you can go in a clinic and practice it in a group setting.
Like she said, practice, folks, and practice does make perfect, because tennis is not something, like I told Dan earlier, you put the racket down for a year, I've got this. You've got to sharpen your skills all the time.
Oh, for sure. Growing up, I quit after my junior year of high school, actually. I didn't pay attention to all those little important things that made us win, and it didn't make me consistent, and it didn't make me the best player I could have been. But now, being in a teaching position, I'm much more thoughtful about the game, so it makes a whole lot more sense.
A lot more time to process things, too.
Yeah, for sure.
And you talk about tennis, folks, too. It helps you in business. I started playing at a young age, and the tournaments are really competition. And whether it's 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, it's great competition.
Always. And I've always thought of it like, I'm not necessarily the most competitive with other people, but I'm competitive with myself. So it's almost like each ball is like a personal challenge when it comes my way. So it's a fun team sport, but also you get that individual satisfaction.
But that individual satisfaction can also sometimes be agony, especially with singles. When you lose a 3-set match, or you win the first set and lose the next 2, you tend to remember. I still have nightmares from high school.
Yeah, my attitude was not something I was the most proud of growing up, and neither were my parents. But it's been fascinating and really just humbling to be out here watching these junior tournaments and seeing these kiddos conduct themselves better than I ever did, and just playing awesome tennis and having awesome attitudes. It's really neat to see.
Does it give you extra satisfaction seeing young girls develop at a young age and keeping that momentum going?
Absolutely. I mean, my shtick, I guess, is that I think because I quit and it wasn't fun for me anymore, all I care about is that it's fun for whoever's on the court. I love girls because I feel like I'm still a little girl in a lot of ways. But I just remember how I was at that age, and I remember the amount of confidence that tennis gave me as a person and into my adulthood, and it's just it's invaluable. And so I definitely encourage the kiddos to get out.
And really, you don't need a whole lot. Pick up a racket, some tennis balls, some good shoes, and a good partner to play with. And it's just you get a really good cardio exercise.
Oh, for sure. I mean, one of my favorite things to do too is just hit on the ball machine and set up targets across, and just it gets your mind off a little bit of the monotony of the ball machine.
And folks, retirees can play out here too. That's one thing about Kingsmill. It's known for its retirees, so this is something they look forward to.
Yep. We've got, I mean, that's the cool thing about tennis, is that it's for any age and all ages, and you've got friends of all ages, and it really just feels like a family and a community.
How about maintaining these courts? It's not easy. It looks easy. Hard courts is not as much maintaining,
Right.
but clay, you have to water them. Explain that process, keeping the net at a certain angle as well.
Oh Lord, Dan would be much better to tell about that process. He's been kind of training me and teaching me along the way. But I grew up playing a lot on hard courts, and I prefer those. And so even here, I teach mostly on the hard courts. It's been fun to learn how to do them, but you're probably asking the wrong person for me to tell you how that process goes.
Well, I mean, you have to water the courts. You know
Yes,
about that.
yes.
Talk about watering the courts.
Yes. I mean, it's very specific and detailed maintenance between turning on the sprinklers and making sure that they don't get flooded, and sweeping the courts, and doing it multiple times a day, and it's just a lot of upkeep, and so it's definitely a job.
Talk about a tip for somebody who's a beginner who wants to go out there and play tennis.
Just have fun. Just don't compare yourself to other people, and just if you give your best effort. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the best that we can all do. So just come out, give it a whirl.
And I think good sportsmanship is very important. I think I think a big part of tennis, whether it's tournaments, is shaking your hand afterwards.
Yeah, except for now with COVID.
Right.
They started touching their rackets. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. I like how they touch their rackets. Who do you look up to in women's and men's tennis as far as the pro ranks?
Oh gosh, I mean, I don't really have. I really don't have a specific one. To be honest, I would kind of like to see some of the top people fade away and some of the underdogs become a little bit more, in the top, ready for some new blood. But I just think it's fascinating how young these players are and how well they conduct themselves and are winning these Grand Slams at such a young age.
All right, Danielle Miller, thank you so much for joining us today on Sports Highlights.
Thank you.
All right, we're here at beautiful Kingsmill, just wrapping up our October show. Hard to believe we're fully into fall right now on our, COVID type show outdoors. We've been doing them since April. Want to thank Ray Price too, and all our great guests today, as well Dan McCain, as well as Danielle Moore here at beautiful Kingsmill, talking about the sport of tennis. It's a sport for a lifetime. So for Ray Price, I'm Greg BICOUVARIS, at Greg Bick on Twitter. For more, log on to NNPSTV.com. We'll talk to you soon.